Well, you guessed it. We're going to talk about the personalization of your reception and ceremony. Make it your own. Traditions are great, but at the same time, this is your one day that you get to do what you want, when you want, and how you want. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is to personalize your reception and your ceremony. All right, everyone, so we're going to talk about personalizing your wedding. I have done weddings where things have been pretty traditional, and there's nothing wrong with traditional when it comes to making moms, dads, grandparents happy. There's a certain line of tradition, but now we live in 2024, and there's a little bit more of a different look that people in wedding photographers do, and clients want something a little bit different than traditional, and that's okay. You're entitled to do what you want to do. And I would encourage you to do something and find the person that you want, whether it's a DJ and you're looking for old school kind of music, but yet can still play the up-to-date stuff at the same time, and a nice mix of the two. Also, when it comes to photography, it's very important that I always start with a traditional way. All the girls on one side, all the guys on the other side, bride and groom in the middle. That's traditional. Click, 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 done. Then I like to have some fun and mix them up, put them with basically the people that they walk down the aisle with as couples, and then I kind of have them posing in different ways, arms on top of each other, and then we do some fun poses and things like that. So I always start with a traditional, safe way. That way their parents and grandparents get what they want, and then I check with the brides and grooms and say, hey, what else would you guys like to do? Do you want to do this, and do you want to do that? So for the ceremony, if you're doing a church ceremony, I feel like you're going to be a little bit limited in that sense that you might only be able to do what you can do when it comes to a church service. Certain songs can be played, and you can't play certain things, and you don't play certain things inside of a Catholic church and stuff like that out of respect for other things. But if you're going to do everything, so in a church, that's what you're kind of limited and pigeonholed into, that you have to do certain things certain ways, and that's okay. So if you're not doing a ceremony inside of the church and you're doing it inside of the venue, then you can definitely be a little bit more creative with having songs that, as people are walking in. You can also do this just like your line when you come walking in for your intros. You can have different songs playing and stuff like that. So I've seen it both ways, and I feel like you can be safe. It's a little bit more work for other vendors to have to kind of like accommodate a little bit different of a vibe, but I feel like at the end of the day, you getting what you want is the most important thing. So check with your vendors ahead of time. Ask them, can you do this? We want to do something traditional, but we want to still stay something with up to date. Can you accommodate both? Yes. Okay. So that would be my first advice to wedding couples and to professional vendors too. Be flexible when it comes to what the brides and grooms want to do. But definitely look into making sure that your vendors can do what you want them to do. And then I've seen ceremonies where people have come walking in singly. I've seen them walking in together. I've seen them walking in as groups, and do what you want to do. So my suggestion is, when you're going to, if you're a bride and groom and you're watching this, when you go to other weddings, look to see what they're doing. Look to see how they came walking in. Look to see how they did their ceremony. Look to see what they did here, and look what they did. And not doing it in a copying way, but doing it in a way of not a judging way either. Oh, I would never do that. You really don't want to get into that, because that might be a preference that was out of their control, or the way that they wanted it. Look at it like, okay, what pros and cons did we take from the last wedding that we went to, and how can we make it better and or different, or more importantly, make it ours? Doing your ceremony as you guys come walking in. If you're doing it in a Catholic church, obviously you got to do the bells, you got to do the Catholic communion and things like that. There's a few things that you have to do inside of that, but not everybody does that or has to do that. So keep in mind when it comes to that, your ceremony, make it your own. And we're going to talk about receptions in just a second, how you can make it your own. But ceremonies, you can just do that. Find something that's different, whether it's traditional or not traditional. You can do the sand thing if you wanted to do something like that. I've seen a lot of that this year, a lot of sand rituals with the dropping of the sands. And if there's blended families in there. Each person has a different color. I would encourage that because it gets the kids involved and it's not excluding them from everything except for just pictures and stuff like that. So definitely keep them included when it comes to that. Especially when it comes to the pictures and things like that. So that's an important part of the ceremony. Make it your own. Find a way that you can make it your own. And do it from there. So the reception is the next thing. So as you guys come walking in, what I've seen a lot this year is a lot of the wedding party guys are all coming in together. A lot of the girls all coming in together instead of 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, so on and so forth. So they play one song and the whole wedding party, either all 12 of them or 6 of them or just the girls, just the guys, or all the girls and all the guys, and you can do whatever you want when it comes to that and play that song that you want them to play so that they have a good idea of what they're walking into, and tell them ahead of time. Make plans and preparations. Wedding party, let me just give you a little tip right here. Wedding party, please, when you're doing something fun and or a little bit of a skit when you come walking through the doors, don't do it the second you walk in the door. I tell every one of my weddings that I do, I sit down with them and I go over there, I go outside of them and I talk to the DJs like, hey, everybody, if you're going to do something fun, don't do it the second you walk in the door because the people in the back of the room can't see. So do a little dance, do a little hustle, do whatever you want to do. Get to the center of the dance floor. Then do whatever you want to do from there because now my lights are set for that and everybody else can see. If Aunt Susie's sitting in the back and Bobby and Joey came walking in over here and they did this funny beer pong thing and they did this, football thing, throwing the bouquet, and half the people didn't see it because you were too far away. So that's a little bit of a tip for the wedding party when you guys come walking in. Get to the center of the dance floor. All right, going back to the party being introduced and stuff like that, definitely come walking in as a group, do your fun skit, come to the center of the dance floor, do what you need to do. I did a wedding this summer, this fall, that was absolutely the first time that I've ever seen this done. And I don't know about you, but when I've been to weddings, you're sitting with 8 to 10 other people that you don't know. Or you're meeting for the first time and you're sitting with them. Or sometimes most of the time they sit you with people that you know, but there's always a rarity that there's always 2 or 4 people that you've never met before. I did this one wedding that they literally had games as a centerpiece to every single table. And I'm not just talking about, hey, a deck of cards. I'm talking about Scrabble. I'm talking about Yahtzee. I'm talking about Monopoly. All these different games. Every table had a different game. It was the coolest thing that I've ever seen. And one of the things I found that, how many times are you sitting at the table and the pictures are done, so you're coming in and you're just sitting down and, there's 12 tables that have to be eating and you're number 12, So you're sitting there talking, mingling, which is what you're supposed to, run to the bathroom, run to grab a drink, come back, kind of thing like that. But games in the center of the table that everybody can play. They all had Scrabble in front of them. They're all playing a board game right in front of them. Some of them had cards, Yahtzee. Everybody was playing, Trouble. Trouble was one of the games also. And everybody's playing board games at the center of all of these tables. I thought that was the coolest thing. I took pictures of them. My second shooter took pictures of them, and it gave the people in your wedding something to do in between waiting to eat or wait in between certain things. I saw 2 people playing. I saw 10 people playing. So you can do it for 1 to 10 people, and it just entertain them. I guarantee you, those people that walked away from that wedding, they're remembering what they did during that dinner time, even out throughout the night. If you didn't feel like dancing and you just wanted to sit and take a break, go back and play some cards, go back and play some Yahtzee and stuff like that. It was the coolest thing. So this video, I just wanted to talk about personalizing your wedding. Just personalizing it to what you and your fiance want to do. What would you like to do? Cribbage is another game that people are, checkers and chess and things. Chess is a little bit of a longer game, but you could still do it. But it was all kinds of games that were inside of there, and the people were entertained. The people had something to do. They were not bored and leaving and things like that. So personalize your ceremony to what you would like to have done. Yes, traditional is important and traditional should still stay there. But at the same time, bring a little bit more of a unique part, a twist that would be very cool for you and make it memorable, make it important to you. Not necessarily how can I keep my guests entertained and or what can I do to, don't look at it like that. Just look at it like, what would I want to do if I was sitting at a wedding waiting for X. Side note, if you have a 3-hour break between ceremony and your cocktail hour starting because you have to travel from one place to the other, give the people a place to go. Personalize it. Do what you want to do. You can have toasts inside of there. You can have readings inside of there. You can have a couple of people do a special quote. I would be very careful about opening the mic up to people because you never know who's going to be the long-winded person, and all of a sudden ceremony things runs long. So if you're going to have somebody speak, give them a time frame and a limit. Yes, it doesn't give them the freedom to say what they want and how they feel, but yes, they can say what they want and how they feel in 2 minutes. Cut it down, figure out what to do. But that's going to be an important part of that. So same thing with the reception, personalize it. Have all of your groomsmen come in together, have them all come in singularly. I've seen done weddings where brides came walking in and they were throwing t-shirts, in a ball, and they were throwing t-shirts across. And it's if I'm remembering it, your guests are going to remember it. And as a vendor, let me help you encourage your brides and grooms to think outside the box and come up with some ideas that they might not have thought of. But at the same time, if you're a photographer, you best be ready. I always ask, what are you going to do so that I am prepared? Meaning, as long as they come to the center of the dance floor, my lights are set up 90 degrees, so I do split lighting on my dance floor, one on this side, one on this side. So once they come to the center, I'm covered. Lighting-wise, I'm covered. But I always ask the brides and grooms, give me an idea of what your dance is going to be like. 98% of the time, it's like, okay, we're just going to sway. And we're just going to sway, and that's all we do. And I was up on the Berkshires, and we were doing this wedding, and they started off traditional, kind of like, swaying back and forth and stuff like that. And then they went into this little bit of foxtrot, and then they went around the dance floor and stuff like that. Now, the only hiccup that I had is my lights were off to right and left. And the only trick problem that I had was the distance from one to the other, because they kept getting close to one side, my B side, and if they're both labeled B, when I had to turn my B down because they got too close to this side over here because the light was too hot, the other B was not compensated for that once they came around to the other side. So I had to quickly change into my on-camera flash. So I use a Godox V1. So I quickly changed my channel to shut my Bs off and just use on-camera flash, and I kind of followed them around, and then I turned my B back on when they got close enough to it. So it was a little bit of a adjustment as they were going through. And then all of a sudden, they're in the center of the dance floor, and the groom backs up about 10 feet, and the bride goes that way about 10 feet. And all of a sudden, she starts running towards him and did the whole dirty dancing, up on the thing, lifted her straight up into the air, and full length arms extension, propped her up in the air. And she's probably a good 5'9" bride. So she was really, really tall. And he was very athletic. So he picked her straight up into the air, but I wasn't ready for it. I didn't know it was coming. So thankfully, with that on-camera flash that I had, I was able to get just enough of them coming from one side, running to the other side, getting it up on the other side, up into the air, and I got that beautiful shot that I had. But I asked them ahead of time, and they kind of like didn't say anything because they didn't want me to know, and then time got away from me. I didn't go back to it. But as a professional vendor, you need to be ready for that stuff. You need to be ready for the unexpected. Expect the unexpected when it comes to that. I always have not just a trigger on my top of my camera, but I always have my on-camera flash. So if they are outside of my frame of my lights, I can always just have my light to fill in the front and still get the shots that I need, because it was very heavily backlit. So they were on a lake. They were under a tent, and it was very heavily backlit. So they had to be lit from this side because the other side was all light and lake. So I had to pop a flash to the front, otherwise it would have been a complete silhouette. So again, that was a personalization of their reception that they wanted to do. And they planned this whole thing. They did everything they wanted to do, and it worked out absolutely perfect. And I got the shots, and they were happy, and they were epic, and everything else was good. So as a vendor, be ready for the unexpected. Always ask, is there something I need to be aware of? Oh, by the way, so-and-so is going to be coming out with a cake, and they're going to do happy birthday with so-and-so while we're eating. Well, I need to know that because I want to be on that side of the room when they're going to do that. So just being prepared, constant communication with your bride and groom so that they know and everybody's on the same page at all times. That's the most important thing. So Personalize your ceremony to whatever you want to do. Personalize your reception to whatever you want to do. Not doing things so that the guests will be entertained, but at the same time, you don't want them to be bored because they ain't going to remember your wedding, or they're not going to care about your wedding, or they're not going to walk away from it. And I'm not saying do things to kind of make it memorable, but at the same time, God, they're coming to visit you. They're coming to spend time with you. They're coming to enjoy you. They're coming to celebrate you. Have them entertained. Give them something to do. And that's the DJ's job, is to be really, really good at what he does so he can keep the people on the dance floor at all times. Play the slow songs when he needs to play the slow songs. Play the upbeat songs when he needs to play upbeat songs. If you're doing a traditional Portuguese wedding or Indian wedding or something like that, that DJ needs to be prepared for playing the Polish weddings. Another one. Any one of those nationality weddings, you need to be prepared for the constant dancing in the shifting of slow dance to fast dance. And then there's a lot of dances with the nationalities that they do a lot of going around the door, around the floor, and they're going back and forth, and they're like, the whole dance is like all the way around the dance floor and spinning and things like that. And so you need to be prepared for those nationalities and those weddings that do accommodate stuff like that. And you got to be able to not know what the dances are, but know that they are movements, and a lot of movements. And your off-camera flash is not going to cut it, because they're either going to be in the way, or they're going to be too hot on one side, the other side's not reaching. Then if you like change it to A and B and you don't remember which one is A, B, have an on-camera flash on at all times, just so that you can have those moments of people going around the dance floor and stuff like that, especially when it comes to nationalities, weddings, traditional weddings like that. They're all really good when they come to that. So thank you guys for coming back to the channel. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'd like to hear what other professional vendors do when it comes to nationalities, and when it comes to Polish weddings and Portuguese weddings and things like that. How do you adjust for lighting when it comes to that? Thank you guys for coming back to the channel. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate that. Thank you for taking the time to come and talk to me about keeping your wedding personalized. Personalize your wedding to that point of ceremony and reception to make it you and make it memorable. So thank you guys. Peace.